Hi, it's Katrina. The biggest mystery of all is the one that seems unsolvable. How did we get here? Science tells us that life evolved on the planet from itty-bitty organisms. But how? Did the building blocks of Earth's earliest organisms come from the heavens? From asteroids or aliens? From waves crashing against the shore? Let's find out, shall we? The Grand Canyon's tooth-faced rockstar. In the quiet depths of the Grand Canyon, a team of scientists from the University of Cambridge were on a mission. They weren't looking for gold or lost cities, but something far older, far stranger. Deep in a layer of mudstone more than 500 million years old, they found it. A creature so bizarre, so profoundly unsettling that it could rewrite the history of life on Earth. Scientists call it a penis worm. And I don't know if YouTube is going to be upset with me for saying that, so I'm not going to say that word again, just in case. Let's call it by its scientific name, Kraytdraco spectatus. It was essentially a worm that looked a lot like a hot dog. Let's put it that way. This creepy old worm was found fossilized, of course. No worm I know can live for 500 million years. It had a mouth that could turn inside out, bristling with tiny, hairy teeth that looked like someone shoved a toothbrush into a meat grinder. And it used that nightmarish mouth to catch food like a professional filter feeder with a serious dental plan. K. spectatus was a ferocious creature for only being the size of a worm. The research team from Cambridge found 967 specimens in the Grand Canyon. These phallic worms ruled the canyonlands during the Cambrian era, at a time when America's favorite fissure was underwater. The Grand Canyon underwater. Wait, the Grand Canyon was underwater? It sure was. Way back when humans weren't even monkeys yet, the Grand Canyon sat near the equator and was covered by a shallow, nutrient-packed sea. Think of it like Earth's original all-inclusive resort. 165 feet deep, rich in oxygen, loaded with food, and absolutely vibing with evolutionary potential. If you were a worm that looked like a hot dog, this was the place to prosper. It was the promised land for wiener worms. Giovanni Mussini, the PhD student leading the study, said the conditions of the sunken Grand Canyon were perfect. He went as far as to say this was the best real estate on Earth at the time. And so, you can imagine, worms weren't the only residents. Alongside our infamously shaped pals, scientists uncovered an entire micro-menagerie, a world of shrimp-like creatures with molars, mollusks with conveyor belts of teeth, and worms with long, spaghetti-like mouthparts. Picture a microscopic version of a seafood buffet where everything's armed to the gills and designed by Tim Burton. Sadly, though, these creepy undersea critters are all dead, preserved as small carbonaceous fossils, or SCFs for short. SCFs are made of soft, squishy body parts, stuff that usually rots before it even gets a chance to fossilize. And that's part of what makes these new discoveries so rare. The seafloor here buried the worms and mollusks so quickly that they were preserved in gloriously grotesque detail for modern humans to study, fossilized in full HD, destroying old myths with science. You're probably wondering what a bunch of worms has to do with the origin of life. Here's where it gets juicy. Scientists used to think that complex life only evolved in extreme oxygen-starved environments, where every day was a survival marathon. But these fossils came from a chill, oxygen-rich, buffet-style ocean. Scientists always thought that Earth, 500 million years ago, was a dead zone, a bacterial-sized war zone where even things as small as viruses had to fight for survival. But finding these fossils in the Grand Canyon proves that there were bountiful paradises. For example, the Grand Canyon was a place where no one suffered until they were eaten by a big floppy worm, and where everyone seemingly had lots to eat. It was a place that promoted evolution and life. As Susanna Porter from UC Santa Barbara put it, it's like if we only had great fossil records from Antarctica, and then suddenly we find human fossils in New York City, where people actually flourished. In other words, the discovery flips the script on the origin of life. It supports a theory not too many people have heard of before. It's called evolutionary escalation. This theory is the idea that animals weren't just reacting to their environments, they were leveling up to outcompete each other. You evolve spiky teeth to eat me. No worries. I evolve armor. You evolve armor. I evolve nightmare-faced mouthworms to penetrate your armor. Evolutionary escalation is basically keeping up with the Joneses, but for animals. And this could be exactly how complex life became so dang complex. These weird worms and their undersea pals were the pioneers who kickstarted the Cambrian Explosion. The Cambrian Explosion. Before the Cambrian Explosion, life was really small. There were a lot of tiny, bizarre creatures in the seas, just like Kraytdraco spectatus. Then came the Cambrian Explosion. Life went from small, wet, and weird to big, diverse, and dry. Fish slithered out of the water and sprouted legs. Things took to the skies. It was absolutely nuts. This was when most major animal groups appeared on Earth. The exact trigger is still a hot topic of debate, obviously. Stanford's Eric Sperling has a theory involving oxygen. Around 550 million years ago, Earth's atmosphere got a big O2 boost, partly thanks to photosynthetic microbes becoming a thing. With more oxygen, animals could generate more energy, evolve faster, and turn into hungry predators. And once predators were on the scene, things got out of control. Sperling believes that predators kicked off the escalatory arms race, forcing animals to evolve at lightning speed. Either evolve or be eaten. That's what I always say. Grand Canyon fossils. I hope if you take anything away from this, it's that the Grand Canyon is more than just a hole in the ground. We already know it's one of the most beautiful places on Earth. The canyon stretches 277 miles and goes down more than a mile deep. But now that scientists are realizing it's also home to some of the earliest complex fossils, the Grand Canyon is becoming an open-air science laboratory. The same place where tourists take death-defying selfies might hold the blueprint for how you and I ended up here in the first place. Who saw that coming? Earth's oldest crater. Stop the presses. A new crater has just blown the doors off our understanding of early Earth. It's not just ancient, it's an epic, city-sized scar on the planet's face, a remnant of a brutal impact that may have been the violent spark that ignited life itself. This discovery is shaking up the scientific world and begging the question, was our origin story born from chaos? In the remote reaches of northwestern Australia, at a place called the North Pole Dome, researchers from Curtin University have unearthed a crater. To be clear, the North Pole Dome is not located anywhere near the geographic North Pole. The newly discovered crater is so ancient, it dates back to a time when Earth was still in its formative stages. This crater is a whopping, and I mean whopping, 3.47 billion years old. It's just incredible, especially since it beat the previous record holder by 1.2 billion years. Before this, the oldest known impact site clocked in at a sprightly 2.2 billion years old, but this one is the undisputed elder god of craters. It's ancient enough to have seen Earth in its acne-riddled teenage phase back when the continents were free-floating like, where are we supposed to be? What happened? Now, to unravel the origin story behind this gigantic crater, scientists think it was left by a very angry meteorite, probably the size of a city. It slammed into early Earth at a speed of 22,369 miles per hour, or 36,000 kilometers per hour. The impact created a 62-mile-wide crater and likely launched molten debris across the planet, even hitting places as far away as South Africa. Talk about global outreach. The impact fired off actual molten balls across continents like gigantic trebuchet missiles. And amazingly, the impact may have given rise to life on Earth. Scientists suspect that if not this impact, then one impact in Earth's ancient history helped kickstart life itself. Let me explain how. Hot water pools, microbial parties, and shattered rocks. Scientists think that impact craters like the one just found in Australia could have created the perfect conditions for microbial life. They would have done this by creating hot water pools, which functioned as nutrient-rich environments. The core of the idea is that crater holes became bathtubs, which became breeding grounds for the earliest known life forms. Ever leave some soup out where you shouldn't and then come back like a week later to find a small city of moldy monstrosities sprouting from it? That may have been what happened in the meteorite crater. And there's even proof to back up the theory. The proof comes in the form of gorgeous little geological fingerprints called shatter cones. These are delicate, conical rock formations that only form when a meteorite punches the planet hard enough to make it cry. Professor Tim Johnson described shatter cones as looking like inverted badminton shuttlecocks with the top knocked off. What a weirdly specific but also very accurate description. And there's more. The crater may have hosted the very first party on Earth. And yes, it was a BYOB, bring your own bacteria. But the impact may have also played a role in Earth's crust formation. According to the study, which was published in Nature Communications, the meteorite strike helped shape the planet's surface. Sort of like how a blacksmith might hammer a piece of metal into a horseshoe. Earth may have been beaten into the beautiful blue orb we know it as today by a bunch of space rocks. This discovery could shift how humans understand life's beginnings on Earth. Scientists used to think meteorites were just bad news, nothing but violent planet killers roaming the galaxy like bullets that never stop. But now, things are looking different. Meteorites may have been more like Earth's early midwives than its destroyers. If Earth's story started with a flaming space rock obliterating the landscape, maybe chaos is the mother of invention. Or maybe I'm just being dramatic. Either way, don't go anywhere yet because I have a lot more shocking theories to run by you, and I want to know what you think. And now for a quick break, but first I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Ian Donovan and Sacha Holt for supporting this channel. Thanks so much for the thoughtful comments, and be sure to hit the notification bell and let me know what other topics you'd like to see in future videos. Did water droplets kickstart life on Earth? Water is life. That's what they say. Where there's water, life flourishes. And so it makes sense to think that water is what created life in the first place. Some scientists have claimed that life originated in the frothing waves of baby Earth. Forget the Hollywood version of life's origin. You know, lightning striking a boiling primordial soup while dramatic music plays. According to new research, life on Earth may have started with microscopic sparks from crashing water droplets. The universe's grand opening act may have been a glorified water fight. Scientists from Stanford University flipped the script and made mist cool again with this latest research. Their new study suggests that every time water droplets collided, be it in a waterfall or an ocean wave, they generated tiny sparks of electricity. These minuscule bursts of energy are known as microlightning, and you'll never see them with your naked eye. This microlightning, in a process scientists are now calling nature's secret sauce, is what created life. Nature's secret sauce. When water droplets smash into each other, they build up electrical charges. Big droplets tend to go positive, while small ones go negative. When the positive big droplets meet small negative droplets, they create a tiny burst of energy. And that, my friends, is microlightning, like lightning's adorable microscopic cousin. What scientists are now cluing into is that microlightning is strong enough to create organic molecules, ones containing carbon-nitrogen bonds, which are the raw material for things like proteins, DNA, enzymes, chlorophyll, and you. The scientists at Stanford experimented with microlightning, trying to figure out what kinds of things they can create with it. During the experiments, the team managed to create uracil out of nothing but water droplets smashing into each other. And what is uracil? It is a key component of RNA, and RNA is the most important thing in the universe, alongside DNA. Without it, your cells wouldn't function. RNA is the very thing that tells your cells how to exist and what they need to do. This new discovery doesn't just add a new detail, it challenges a theory that's been around for decades, the Miller-Urey experiment. The Miller-Urey experiment. If you were paying attention in biology class, which most of us weren't, you might remember the Miller-Urey experiment from 1952. That's the one where scientists zapped a jar of gases with electricity and created amino acids. It was like Frankenstein for molecules, and it's been the go-to theory for how life began ever since. Most people don't realize this, but the prevailing theory for how life started on Earth is basically that lightning zapped some gas and made amino acids. That's the bare bones of it in a single sentence. But now, the researchers at Stanford are messing everything up with their new discoveries. The team found that lightning isn't even required for making amino acids. Microscopic water droplets can do the job solo. No divine thunderbolt necessary. Professor Richard Zare, the study's senior author, said that microelectric discharges between oppositely charged water microdroplets make all the organic molecules observed in the Miller-Urey experiment. Are you with me? He essentially said you don't need Zeus to make life. Poseidon can do the trick himself. Crashing waves or lightning strikes. Think about early Earth for a second. There were no cities, no people, not even any animals. But there were plenty of waterfalls and chaotic wave action. It turns out that Earth's wet and wild fun zone may have been the perfect setting for chemical reactions to go ham and make life. Richard Zare and his team shot sprays of water into a mix of early Earth gases, methane, ammonia, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and watched as molecules like hydrogen cyanide, glycine, and uracil formed, all without a single lightning bolt. Isn't this kind of crazy? Moving water is enough to create the most important molecules in the universe. It's like realizing you don't need a flamethrower to cook your food, just a really aggressive squirt gun and a little chemistry. Zare's lab has a bit of an obsession with water droplets, though to be fair, it is their job. They've shown that tiny droplets are chemical party animals. They can create hydrogen peroxide, help make ammonia, and potentially jumpstart life itself, which is wild because, like Zare said, we usually think of water as so benign. It's such a random, ever-present thing that no one thinks much about. Drink it from the tap, spray it in your garden, swim in it at the lake. But when water, ordinary old lake water, is divided into tiny droplets, it becomes highly reactive. Water goes from soothing spa treatment to molecular wizard. This new research doesn't just challenge old theories, it opens the floodgates to a new way of thinking about how life began. Crashing waves and misty waterfalls may have been Mother Nature's original chemistry lab, tossing out micro-lightning like party favors. And if water plus gas plus a little friction equals life, then there is no way Earth is the only planet with life on it, right? If all it takes to make life is a single wave, I think it's safe to say that life is definitely waiting for us on other worlds. What do you think? Aliens everywhere, or do scientists need to come up with something new? Let me know in the comments. The scientist who discovered the secret of life. Locked behind the Iron Curtain in a lab so top secret that even the people working in it didn't know its name, one man cracked the code to one of the biggest mysteries in science. He supposedly figured out how life began, and then he was erased from history. Let me get something out of the way immediately. This is not a feel-good story about a misunderstood genius who was eventually showered with Nobel Prizes and Netflix documentaries. This is the story of Tibor Ganti, a scientific tragedy. It's a tale of political walls, academic snobbery, and a man so far ahead of his time, he got left in the dust. Now, decades later, scientists are circling back and realizing that Ganti's radical theory from the 1970s might be the only theory on life's origin that makes sense. It's great news for science, but for Tibor, it's too little too late. The ghost of biology passed. In 2009, Tibor Ganti died in Hungary at the ripe old age of 75. Outside of his home country, few people knew who he was. There were no headlines upon his passing, no obituaries in the journals Nature or Science. Nobody really noticed. But back in the 1970s, while disco was peaking and biologists were obsessing over DNA like it was the new sliced bread, Ganti was quietly working on something else. It was a bold, weird, and wildly ambitious model of how life actually works. He called his revolutionary model the chemoton. Yes, it sounds like the name of a D-list Marvel villain, but really, it's one of the most elegant, frustratingly overlooked theories in origin of life research. Life according to Ganti. Ganti asked a simple but elusive question: what even is life? Then he answered his own question, and his answer was deceptively simple. Life isn't just about DNA or proteins or membranes. It's not one magic molecule. Instead, life is a system. Life as we know it is a delicate balance of three things working together. You've got metabolism, a cycle to generate energy and maintain itself. Then you've got information storage, a way to pass on instructions. Genes and DNA fall into this category. And the third thing is membrane, something to keep the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. Put all three together and boom, you've got the minimal setup for a living thing. It needs to have a metabolism, a way to store information, and a membrane to keep it physically together. With these three things, life doesn't need to be pretty. It doesn't even have to be carbon-based. It just has to work. Ganti's idea was so simple, it was genius. It explained how life could start from scratch without needing a miracle molecule to appear. It was universal, a model that could even apply to alien life. While other scientists were hunting for some missing God particle of organic life, Tibor was realizing that life doesn't need some magic secret ingredient. But there was a problem. The problem was the Cold War. The Iron Curtain. Tibor Ganti lived and worked in Hungary, Soviet Hungary. And that meant his research wasn't just underfunded, it was invisible. His book, The Principles of Life, was only published in Hungarian. Imagine writing one of the most important scientific theories of the 20th century and it's locked behind a language barrier no one outside of Hungary could read. Meanwhile, the RNA world hypothesis took off in the global spotlight. This theory suggests that before DNA came around, all life was based primarily on RNA. Scientists applauded this theory while Tibor was stuck behind the Iron Curtain, with his book at the very bottom of the Soviets' worst seller list. Unfortunately, Ganti didn't help his own case. Described by peers as stubborn and impossible to work with, he wasn't exactly a media darling. If he had been a little more approachable and less of a cranky, yelling, hot-headed genius, he probably would have gotten more attention. One fellow Hungarian biologist said collaborating with Tibor was like trying to rearrange the atoms in a diamond, which for those who don't know is technically possible, but also a real pain in the rear end. The world is catching up. Fast forward to today, scientists are finally picking up what Ganti put down. At Harvard, Nobel laureate Jack Szostak has created protocells that can grow and divide, giving off some serious chemoton vibes. Over in Tokyo, Taro Toyota is building minimal cell-like structures that could have come straight out of Ganti's notebook. And in 2023, a team in Poland showed that just 6 basic chemicals could give rise to thousands of biomolecules, including the building blocks of RNA and proteins. This is groundbreaking work, and it all supports Ganti's core idea that life is not the result of a 1 in a trillion lightning strike. Instead, life is an emergent system that can evolve naturally under the right conditions, no electric storm required. His theory also opens doors for astrobiology. Right now, scientists are obsessed with trying to find signs of DNA, chemical signatures of life forms comparable to the chemical signatures of life forms on Earth. But these astrobiologists could be going about it all wrong. Maybe they need to be searching for planets where the chemoton model is on full display. They should be searching for systems that self-maintain, self-replicate, and protect themselves. Because maybe alien life really is alien. So alien that it's not going to give off any of the signatures that scientists are looking for, but it still must require metabolism, information storage, and membrane. Redefining life itself. At its heart, Ganti's work is shaking up a definition that scientists have gotten too comfortable with. As philosopher of science James Grisimer puts it, life is not proteins, RNA, or lipid bilayers. But then what is it? Life is all of these things connected in the right kind of organization. Ganti figured it out in the 70s. He just didn't live to see the world catch on. The story of Tibor Ganti isn't just about one forgotten genius. It's a cautionary tale about how revolutionary ideas can be buried, not because they're wrong, but because they're inconvenient, or poorly timed, or written in the wrong language by the wrong person in the wrong place. As scientists dig deeper into Tibor's theories, they get closer to unlocking the true definition of what life is. And once we can all agree on what constitutes life, it'll be a lot easier to find its origin. How to create life in a lab. How long before humans can rearrange the building blocks of life and become gods? Forget about AI. One day, people will be able to create entirely new living creatures. But we're not quite there yet. What happened is that a group of Japanese scientists stumbled onto the secret of how life on Earth started. And sadly, it has nothing to do with aliens. It also has nothing to do with lightning, puddles, or waves. It has everything to do with specialized droplets known as coacervate droplets. They are tiny, gooey blobs with zero chill and a potential god complex. These little guys are like the hipster ancestors of cells. They organize molecules, hold RNA like it's going out of style, and can even self-replicate. They make copies of themselves like it's a Black Friday sale at a clone factory. These tiny droplets, sometimes called protocells, have fascinated scientists for decades. They are formed through a process of liquid-liquid phase separation, causing molecules in water to clump together, thus creating tiny droplets that behave like primitive cells. They were theorized as early as the 1920s, but it wasn't until now that scientists have begun to make real headway in research. The experiment. Led by Muneyuki Matsuo and Kensuke Kurihara, the team mixed amino acid thioesters in a lab, I don't know what that is, and out popped these self-growing, self-dividing blobs. Not only did they stay intact, they even kept their structure when scientists threw in some RNA and lipids, just to see what would happen. The protocells thrived. Then, when scientists fed them some extra molecular snacks, the droplets grew, divided, and kept going, like the world's first replicating slime balls. All of this happened in room temperature water, under regular atmospheric pressure without any lightning bolts or volcanic drama. And here's where things really heat up. When the researchers added nucleic acids and lipids, two heavy hitters in the game of life, the RNA naturally clustered at the inner edge of the droplets, stabilizing them. And that behavior mirrors what happens in actual cells today. It's as if these protocells were saying, oh, we've done this before. This is a huge deal because reproduction is the holy grail of life. Lots of chemical systems can form, some can even organize, but very few can replicate. Without replication, evolution can't happen. Without evolution, you don't get progress, you don't get complexity, you don't get you, listening to this right now, wondering if these blobs will one day unionize. Altering science. This new study challenges the long-standing RNA world hypothesis, which claimed that life began with self-replicating RNA. Matsuo and Kurihara's results hint at an alternate theory, which they've now called the droplet world. Their new theory says simple molecules didn't need to be magical to make life, they just needed the right environment to come together and do their thing. Matsuo said this could explain how the first living organisms emerged on early Earth. The fact they just recreated the exact conditions in a lab is sort of shocking. I can't overstate the importance of this study. The Japanese scientists made life from nothing but chemical compounds combining into amino acids, and that is the first step to making a monster. This discovery also opens the door to life beyond Earth. If droplets can replicate under basic early Earth conditions, then who's to say the same thing isn't happening on other planets with liquid, gas, and a little time? More importantly, this discovery proves we can now watch the bridge from chemistry to biology forming in real time. Scientists can turn chemicals into biologicals, and that is really, really amazing. LUCA, the last universal common ancestor. You know that one ancestor all humans share if you go back far enough? Now go back even further. Further, still further. Okay, right about there. Way beyond our human progenitor, there is an even older ancestor, one that every human, animal, and plant can trace its origins to. It's called LUCA, or the last universal common ancestor. And every single microbe, every cell, every virus, every leaf, every starfish, and every weirdo organism squirming on the edge of a microscopic slide, they can all trace their roots back to this one ancestor, LUCA. And now, things are shaking up a bit. Scientists have just given LUCA a major upgrade. For decades, scientists figured that LUCA popped into existence around 3.5 billion years ago. You know, right around when Earth stopped being a flaming death orb and started cooling off into something bacteria might want to settle down on and have a family. But thanks to new research published in Nature, Ecology, and Evolution, LUCA's backstory has been pushed closer to 4 billion years ago. That is hundreds of millions of years older than scientists thought. In technical terms, it's like finding out your great-grandpa wasn't born in the 1800s, but actually helped build the pyramids. This is more than a date change. It is a total rewrite of life's opening chapter. But how did scientists even figure this out? It's not like LUCA left behind a fossil with a helpful name tag. Instead, researchers had to pull off some hardcore genetic detective work. They analyzed ancient genes found in everything alive today, from bacteria to archaea and from you to your cat, and then they traced the genes back as far as they possibly could to find LUCA. Turns out LUCA probably rocked about 355 essential genes, which is the microbial equivalent of carrying a Swiss Army knife. It's not bad for a single-celled organism, and the first one to ever exist. Scientists focused on one particular thing: ribosomal RNA. It's a molecule so stable and fundamental to life, it's basically the holy relic of genetics. Ribosomal RNA has been around forever and still does the job in every cell on the planet. They are incredibly important. Using these ribosomal RNA as molecular breadcrumbs, scientists estimated LUCA's debut at a time when Earth was still fresh out of the cosmic oven, meaning that LUCA wasn't living in a cozy puddle or on a sunny beach. It was likely thriving near hydrothermal vents, slurping up hydrogen and carbon dioxide like it was sipping smoothies in a volcanic hot tub. So where was LUCA born? More or less in the fires of Mount Doom. Forget lightning bolts sparking life. Forget waves creating amino acids. LUCA may have been forged on Earth when it was still a ball of molten rock. But what does that mean for life in the universe? Connecting the cosmic dots. If LUCA showed up this early on the planet while Earth was still hot from forming, it suggests that life didn't wait around. It jumped into the ring the second the planet wasn't actively on fire. Which is amazing because it supports my favorite theory for all the origin of life, which is the life everywhere hypothesis. It says that life isn't a rare fluke at all. Sorry, you're not as special as your mom said. Instead of being random and rare, life might be the default setting throughout the universe. If a planet is habitable, life will show up no matter what, which means that Earth might not be that special. If life got going that fast here, who's to say it isn't already bubbling away on Mars, swimming under the ice of Europa, or evolving in the methane soup of Titan? LUCA's ancient timeline gives extraterrestrial life a green light and a head start. Of course, LUCA is a far stretch from a human being. Billions of planets probably have life on them, but how many have self-aware life like humans? That's the real question. But it's not going to be answered anytime soon. So in the meantime, let's focus on this 4-billion-year-old germ. Because this ancient microbe may hold the secret to our origin and our cosmic future. LUCA wasn't just the first spark of life, it was proof that life wants to happen. Life is stubborn, life adapts, life thrives in places you and I wouldn't dare vacation. Thanks for watching. Are you feeling positive for the future of life after this video? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. See you in the next one. Bye!